What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another episode of NBA Weekly. I'm your host, Pee Wee the Plug, and today is finally the day. The moment we all been waiting for throughout the 82-game season, the All-Star game, the trade deadline, the little COVID part of the year when we was giving out 10-day contracts. This is the moment we've worked for the entire year. The NBA Finals. First and foremost, shout out to my Boston Celtics fans, and shout out to my Warrior fans, the real ones. I don't know which one of y'all or how many of y'all were around for the Monte days, the Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes. A lot of y'all hopped on the bandwagon. We still remember. We still remember. But shout out to everybody who's fans of both of these teams. There's a lot to unpack. I think it's going to be an action-packed series. I'm hoping for that. I'm hoping for 7 games. I want this to feel like a heavyweight boxing match or something like that. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But like I said, there's a lot to unpack. I got talking points in front of me to make sure I hit on every single thing. I didn't want to forget anything that needed to be touched on or talked about. So yeah, the first thing we're going to start on is a defense. We have to start there. The Boston Celtics have been the story of all playoffs. It's a feel-good story, but more than a feel-good story and the young guys evolving into stardom in front of our eyes. It's the defense side of basketball. Since the turning of the calendar into 2022, the Boston Celtics have flipped the switch, and the defense has become something that's been historical, and it's been fun to watch, even beyond the numbers and the metrics. Just the size of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, two guys who have always had the defensive tools since they came into the league, but to see them finally buy in has been fun to watch. Marcus Smart, the Defensive Player of the Year, being that anchor, that heart and soul, the guy that's fighting always, bringing the tenacity and the energy and setting the tone for them. Then you also back that with high IQ guys who bring size and versatility, like Al Horford, Grant Williams, Derek White, another high IQ perimeter player that they acquired from San Antonio at the trade deadline. And then also Robert Williams, to see him evolve from a foul-prone, block-happy, young athletic center to now emerging as a real rim protector and weak-side shot blocker that's anchoring the back end of this defense. It's been fun to see. It's been very, very fun to see, and it's been the story throughout all of the playoff series they had in this run against the Nets, sweeping them and having Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in shambles. The Bucks with Giannis Antetokounmpo, the quote-unquote best player in the world. And then lastly, the Miami Heat, who we saw them beat in 7 games recently. The first thing I want to talk about specifically with the Celtics defense is how different the Warriors offense will be versus any of the previous teams that they played. That's the first thing that needs to be said. The Warriors have not played a defense like the Celtics or a team like the Celtics, and vice versa. The Celtics have not seen an offense or a team like the Warriors all playoffs long. The thing about the Celtics, though, not to discredit them at all at any point, because they definitely deserve their flowers and credit and respect for the playoff run that they have had. When you look at the Nets, Bucks, and the Heat, they all have something that can be exposed, or a weakness, or something that you attack or take away. Specifically in the first series against the Brooklyn Nets, you look at the makeup of that team and you see that there is nothing really there outside of Kyrie and KD. So the Boston Celtics game plan was to allow Brooklyn to do whatever they wanted to do outside of Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. So that means Kyrie Irving, we're going to send 2 or 3 bodies at you. Kevin Durant, we're going to send 2 or 3 bodies at you. We're cutting off driving lanes. We're forcing tough shots. We're willing to leave the Bruce Browns of the world open on slips and short rolls, corner threes. You look at the Brooklyn Nets from a team aspect statistically, they shot 50% from the field. They shot 42% from 3, which led the playoffs. The only team to shoot 40% in the playoffs as a team. And that's because they got good looks outside of KD and Kyrie. But the entire game plan from the Boston Celtics was, hey, your 2 best players who are all-time great scorers are not going to win you a game. Ime Udoka said, hey, I am fine with Bruce Brown trying to win you a game. I'm fine with Andre Drummond having a ball in his hands and having to make a decision. Nicholas Claxton, even Goran Dragic has some moments, but the Boston Celtics didn't flinch. It's like, hey, I'll let Goran Dragic score 9 points in a row. You know what I mean? Even Seth Curry, as lethal as he is as a shooter, he got certain looks that the Boston Celtics said, hey, will live with those looks to not allow rhythm and comfort for Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant, which was a genius thing because that's the worst we've seen Kevin Durant look. And Kyrie Irving, after that explosive game one, just couldn't find himself getting into a rhythm to establish himself in any other game like that throughout the rest of the series. Even against the Bucks, I understand the Bucks didn't have Chris Middleton. That's obviously was a big blow for them. But even outside of that, you look at game one that the Bucks stole in Boston. Pretty much after that, they didn't allow comfort to the shooters who had an impact in the game. Connaughton didn't really have the shooting display that he had consistently throughout this series. Grayson Allen couldn't breathe after game one and never had much of an impact from the perimeter. Wesley Matthews eliminated those looks and really just made it tough for Giannis because they have that front court of strength, size, and IQ, and they weren't going to allow him to bulldoze his way to the hoop and have dominance inside the interior. So though Giannis did play good, the shooting numbers statistically just wasn't there for him, and they really made him work. And the others, they put them in a position to, again, have to step up and beat them, and they just didn't. They fell very short, and in the games that the Celtics won, they kind of dominated, especially in that closeout game, because really, again, outside of Giannis, can anybody step up and beat us? And the answer was no. Jrue Holiday gave everything that he had, and he played a lot better than it was expected as the only other perimeter threat, with Chris Middleton being down. But at the end of the day, the Celtics find another thing in that series to take away. And then lastly, with the Miami Heat, outside of Jimmy Butler, there was really no threat for any shot creation. We all, as fans, screamed at our TVs for Bam to show some aggression. He did. I think it was a little too late in the series when he did. He was able to step up in that game 5, I believe, in Boston without Jimmy Butler. That was a very, very good sight to see in a performance that was good for him. But pretty much after that, showed a little fight in game 7. But for the most of the parts of the series, Bam lacked aggression. And I think he had a couple of single-digit games scoring-wise, and that's just not what you want to see. Kyle Lowry just didn't look the same. Definitely hobbled an injury. Who isn't at this point with his age? And some of the things just didn't look right with Kyle Lowry. Tyler Hero, his injury, but even when he was out there, he wasn't having the same impact. Victor Oladipo, Max Strus had a stretch where him and Kyle Lowry were like 1 for 26 or something like that in the last 2 games. Anytime you're shooting a basketball like that, you're not going to have any opportunity. But the point is, you emphasize on Jimmy Butler, you make it as tough as possible for him, and the others, you kind of just take away the 3-point shot for them, and that's pretty much it, because nobody else can create. And that's, again, another thing to take away from a team. Now, when you look at the Golden State Warriors in this finals preview and matchup, when I look at the Warriors, I don't see anything that the Celtics can exploit, take away, or really thrive off of in a game plan. Now, the one thing I will say is they have certain strengths like their size, right? Marcus Smart has been known to do a fairly good job against Steph Curry. The Boston Celtics as a team has had, since the 2014 season, a winning record. I think they're the only team that has a winning record against the Golden State Warriors. So there's some things, even though a lot of that shit don't matter in this particular series because 2014 and 2022 is just 8 years apart. But there's some success there that the Celtics definitely have over the Warriors. The switchability is something that I like for the Celtics. But another thing against the Warriors is because they have a system, they don't really look for isolation basketball. You're not going to really rattle them and take and engage them into taking bad shots. Draymond Green is fully aware of who he is, and he's fully comfortable with passing up open 3-point looks if you're not going to guard him. He's okay with catching at the perimeter, not even looking at the basket, initiating offense into another dribble handoff, a backdoor action where there's Steph coming off and Jordan Poole going backdoor. So same thing with Kevon Looney. Kevon Looney has the ball at the top of the key. He's not even looking at the rim. They're fully aware and established on who they are and what they do and what they mean to the system that they run. So that is one of the things that sticks out for me with Boston. I've been trying to figure out what ways can they impact or fluster the Golden State Warriors, and really outside of their size, and hoping that the Warriors are lackadaisical with the basketball, which they can be in certain games. You look at the turnover numbers for the Warriors. They averaged 13, 18, and 12 in 3 previous series. 18 turnovers is a crazy amount of turnovers for the Warriors. They can be very, very, very loose with the basketball. And if they're giving the Celtics team 18 turnovers and that many opportunities in transition, it can be scary. Another thing for the Warriors, though, is on the defensive side of the basketball for them. They're a team that forced 16 turnovers a game on the Nuggets, 12 turnovers for the Grizzlies, and 10 turnovers for the Mavs. The Mavs are one of the teams that protect the basketball the most. Jason Kidd, the head coach, really running through Luka. He's never out of pace. He's never sped up. So it's hard to really turn them over. But I will say the Celtics are also a team that's prone to turn it over. When you look at the totals, the two top teams with the most turnovers in the playoffs have been the Celtics and the Warriors. Jason Tatum has been extremely sloppy with the basketball at times. I think he's averaging like 4 turnovers a game. He leads the NBA with like 77 throughout the playoffs. So if they can force the Celtics to turn the ball over as well, the Warriors can have an advantage there. And one thing about the Celtics is when they are turning the basketball over, teams take advantage. And that was part of the situation with the Miami Heat in Game 7 when they made that late game surge. They were getting the stops. They were getting turnovers. You got Jason Tatum trying to split double teams throughout the pick and roll. And then it also forced Marcus Smart to take a lot of ill-advised shots because they were loading up on Jason Tatum. Some teams are going to dare Derek White to shoot. The Warriors are going to be one of them. That's been a part of the Warriors' game plan, is that they'll live with low percentage shooters and they'll stick to that game plan no matter how many shots you're making. So even if Derek White is having a performance like he did in Miami throughout one of these games, the Warriors are still not going to change their game plan, and they're going to say he's going to have to continue to do that throughout the 7 games that we play. And I think the same thing can be said about Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart has the ability to knock down the shots, but I would be surprised to see if the Warriors didn't shade or throw multiple guys at Jason Tatum, depending on how he's playing. Another thing for the Warriors defense is against the Mavericks, they threw so many different looks. 3-2 zone, box and one, full court pressure. That experience and that unpredictability from Steve Kerr means so much when you're talking about a star player and how to attack. When you're bringing up the ball and you don't know what you're about to face, you don't know if you're getting blitzed, hard hedged, they're going under, switching. It's a mystery, and it's a forever going chess match, and I love that about the Warriors, and I think that part can really fluster Boston, who at times their offense cannot perform as good as you would like or you would think. And because they do have some guys who are isolation prone, switching will force Jason Tatum to have to attack certain people. Jaylen Brown will be willing and looking to attack certain things. And that's going to be 2 key things in their defenses that I'm going to be looking at. Who is going to find the weakness in the defense first? Is the Warriors going to find something that's exposed in Game 1? Are the Celtics going to find an edge? And I think that's going to be the deciding factor, because this matchup is going to literally be a chess match. Steve Kerr versus Ime Udoka. Who's going to make the first move for the other coach to have to adjust to? And I think that's going to start the boxing match of going back and forth. So I'm looking forward to that part in this Game 1. Another key thing is the fourth quarter. The Warriors have the best fourth quarter offense. Steph Curry's best shooting percentage from the field, best 3-point percentage, and best free throw percentage also comes in the fourth quarter. They're an extremely good fourth quarter team. We've seen them battle back time and time again. That fourth quarter is where the Warriors thrive offensively. On the flip side, contrary to belief, the Celtics' worst defensive quarter is the fourth quarter, which has explained some of the games that they've let down and a couple of the previous series against the Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks at home too. So that's going to be a key part to look out for with a team that's inexperienced in a championship level, but the Celtics definitely have experience, but they're not as seasoned and experienced with championship DNA as the Golden State Warriors. So with the Warriors already being such a well-polished fourth quarter team offensively, and the Celtics playing their worst defense in the fourth quarter, the closeout of games is going to be very interesting to see how that works and to see if the Celtics can, fine-tune those mistakes that they're making in the fourth quarter and really lock in as a defensive unit. It's also going to be interesting to see how they close out games. Robert Williams is a question mark. That's going to be a big part of this series. Are they going to play big? Are they going to close small? Is Jordan Poole going to be able to close out the game? Are they going to go Grant Williams and Al Horford in the front court? Is it going to be Derek White closing? It's going to be very interesting to see the closeout lineups. So the fourth quarter is a big time thing that I'm watching for later tonight in Game 1. Another key point I want to make, matchups. This series has matchups throughout the roof. First and foremost, we have Marcus Smart and his defense on Steph Curry. Like I alluded to, there's history there that shows Marcus Smart does a fairly good job against Steph Curry. And it's the narrative out here, not saying that I believe it or I'm with it or that I'm pushing it, that Steph Curry performs less than his normal normal rate in the finals, which is why he doesn't have a finals MVP or yada yada yada. The other matchup that I'm looking at is the matchup between the Robins. Which Batman is going to get help, and that's Klay Thompson versus Jaylen Brown. Both of these guys are here to complement the face of the franchise, Tatum and Steph, respectfully. Which one of these guys are going to make the biggest impact? We know Game 6 Klay is a real thing, but we've also seen Jaylen Brown have his moments where he's able to be the closeout guy for the Celtics, and down the stretch, he's making big shots, he's bringing the energy, he's making poster plays. We've seen Jaylen Brown step up big as the Robin to Batman. Which one of these guys are going to step up and really be there for their Batman throughout the series is going to be something to watch. I'm really liking that matchup there. Wiggins' defense on Tatum. The same thing I said about Marcus Smart. How much of an impact can Wiggins make against Jason Tatum to get him uncomfortable and it kind of maybe not even get him uncomfortable, but just keep him set. And I love the way that Wiggins played against Luka. Luka made shots. Luka was successful, but it did not deter Wiggins from doing his job and his assignment. And the same thing will happen against Tatum. Tatum is going to make tough shots. He's going to take tough shots, and he's going to score the basketball, but that can't knock you off your square. As a defender, you have to know who you're matched up against and why they are superstars. Another key thing that I'm looking at is Robert Williams and his knee and health. I alluded to it earlier. He looked wobbly against the Celtics, but his weak side help as a rim protector, it's next level. And when you have guys like Jordan Poole, who loves getting to the basket and finishing, the back doors and the cutting and all of the intricacies that happen in the Warriors offense, being able to have Robert Williams as a weak side rim protector and shot blocker could go a very long way. And if he's not able to move, he can get exposed, and the Warriors can seek him out and test his knee and his mobility on the perimeter. And I'm afraid that the Celtics wouldn't be able to play him the way they want to if he's not as explosive to be a rim protector and keep up with the guards on the perimeter. So that's something that I'm watching out for. And then the last matchup is Jordan Poole's defense against Derek White's offense. Will Jordan Poole be effective enough defensively to be able to play high minutes in this series? Because Steve Kerr is always going to go with his defense, and if Jordan Poole is not making him comfortable enough, he's not going to be able to play him the way he wants to. And Jordan Poole is going to play minutes, but I mean closing out the game, different stretches. If the Celtics find a way to go at Jordan Poole with Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and make him a weak spot in the defense, it's going to force Steve Kerr's hand to now have to go with Kevon Looney or Otto Porter or something that's not as explosive on the offensive end. Vice versa for the Celtics. Derek White's offense, we know how good he is defensively, navigating through screens, chasing around Steph and Klay throughout the perimeter through screen. He's going to do a very good job at that. But will he be able to make shots on the opposite end? Because the Warriors are going to give him shots. They're going to make him have to be a weapon on the offensive side of the basketball. And if he's not making shots, they're going to load up on Jaylen Brown. They're going to load up on Jason Tatum. And it's going to force Ime Udoka's hand to limit the minutes of Derek White, which softens up the perimeter defense of the Boston Celtics. So that's another matchup that I'm looking for throughout this series. One of the last things and key points for me is the rebounding. The Warriors' offensive rebounding has been very good throughout the year. Throughout the playoffs. You got Andrew Wiggins and Kevon Looney leading the playoffs with 42 offensive rebounds. The Boston Celtics, they're going to have to find a way to limit this. When you look at the series against like the Bucks, in 3 of the Bucks wins, the Celtics allowed them to get double-digit offensive rebounds. So you had 10 offensive rebounds in a game. They gave up 13 offensive rebounds in a game. Then they gave up 17 offensive rebounds in a game. If you are allowing the Golden State Warriors to get that many second chance looks, they're going to take advantage. They're going to take advantage without the second chance looks, number one. But if you allow them to get second, third opportunities and you're not maxing out, that could be a component from switching. If you're switching and now Marcus Smart is on Kevon Looney or Derek White is on Andrew Wiggins and they fail to box out because they're in help or whatever, That's how Wiggins has been getting to the offensive glass. It's going to be a very, very hard series. Even when you look at the Heat, they have games where they gave the Heat 9 offensive rebounds, 8 offensive rebounds, 11 offensive rebounds. Not as many as the Bucks, but again, if you're giving the Warriors 9, 8, 11 second chance opportunities, they're going to take advantage a lot more than the Miami Heat were able to. So I'm looking at the offensive glass and the rebounding as a totality. All in all, this is going to be a firepower series. I'm taking the Golden State Warriors in 6. I just think the championship DNA, the experience, the fact that they've seen every single thing that you can throw at them. As much as I love the Celtics defense, the Warriors have been here 6 out of 8 times. There's just not much that they haven't seen. There's really very few flaws and weaknesses in that offense. It's an actual system and a scheme versus one guy trying to will his team to victory, which is some of the things that we saw in a previous series that the Celtics had. Kevin Durant and Kyrie, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jrue Holiday, and then Jimmy Butler. This is a fine-tuned system where Klay is going to be effective. Jordan Poole is going to be effective. Steph Curry, Draymond, Otto Porter can make shots. The depth and the size, the versatility that the Warriors have, I think is going to be a little bit too much for the Celtics to have. I got the Warriors in 6, and it's going to be special. My thing is really hoping to see again 7 games and really seeing these parallels play out. The Steph Curry, Jason Tatum being the face. Klay Thompson and Jaylen Brown being the Robins to the Batman and arguably coming to save the Batman's asses in certain series, in certain moments. The heart and souls of the team, Draymond versus Marcus Smart. The 6-man importance between Jordan Poole and Derek White, Steve Kerr, Ime Udoka, 2 former player head coaches who had a lot of success in their first year as a coach with these teams. There's a lot of parallels there. But I ultimately think the Warriors are closer to the Celtics in defense than the Celtics being close to the Warriors in offense. So if you have the Celtics being the #1 defense in the playoffs and the Warriors being the #4, and then you have the Warriors being the #1 offense, I think that balance between the two, ultimately with the experience and the system, it leads to them winning this in 6. That's my finals prediction. That's my NBA Finals preview. I'm excited. I'm pumped. I cannot wait for Game 1. Y'all give me y'all predictions, y'all preview, what y'all looking for throughout this series. And I will see y'all after Game 1. I'm out. Peace.